Welcome back to the Mulberry Book Drop. Hey, Sarah.
Hi, Bethany.
Welcome home.
Thanks.
Tell me something good.
Oh, vacation was a dream. Y'all, I went to Honduras and I got to hold a sloth.
I'm so jealous.
I may or may not have cried because it was just magical.
I probably would have bawled.
I was like, can you come home with me? Oh, it was amazing. What about you?
So it's good, but it's also bad.
Oh.
We're doing college visits right now. So at the time of this recording, we have everything scheduled. By the time it drops, we may have already been there. But our oldest is hot in the world of college. So we're preparing. So visits, applications, and it's just
a lot.
Yeah, I think about my kids and I picture these little babies and then they come out of their rooms in the morning and they're taller than me and I'm just like, who are you and why are you in my house? And so it's kind of crazy that we're at this point already. So it's a little shocking.
It'll be great.
It will. And I know he's going to go do great things and all of my kids will. I love them so much, but it's really interesting that we've made it this far.
Yeah.
So I don't know. But so we are going to quick check in with our city manager and see what he's got going on. And we are back at City Hall with Rick Johnson. How's it going, Rick?
It's going extremely well, thank you.
Good. Anything fun happening in the city?
We have upcoming, it'd be the beginning of December the 3rd, we have the Christmas tree lighting down at the Gem Theater again with the cookie walk, and then we have our Christmas parade in Christmas Village on the 10th of December.
Oh, those are awesome events, too. So for more information on them, make sure you follow the city on social media. If you have any questions, just let us know. And this month, Rick, we are actually talking about biographies and autobiographies and memoirs. Do you happen to have a favorite that you've read over the years?
Well, I read, because I'm a history guy, I read a lot of biographies. And I think I probably like something that zeroes in, like a big Teddy Roosevelt fan, so The Rise of Teddy Roosevelt by Edmund Morris, which only kind of takes him up to the beginning of his political career. And then there's other books that have different sections of after he was president, while he was president, while he was with the Rough Riders. So I find that I tend to like a biography that focuses on a certain time in someone's life rather than their entire life start to finish. So.
Okay, that's interesting. That's interesting. I find that I prefer memoirs because I like them to be written by the person about a specific part of their life.
There's a Teddy Roosevelt memoir out there somewhere.
Oh, I'll have to get that from you.
Okay. Great.
Thank you so much, Rick. We'll talk to you next month.
Thank you.
Awesome, as always. Thank you so much, Rick. So, Sarah.
Yeah?
Why are we here today? Do you know?
You may or may not have mentioned something, but I feel like you should say it.
We're here to talk about one of my favorite things.
Which, besides me? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, we already talked about you.
What's up?
Well, I want to talk about a tiny slice of the nonfiction genre that I love so much.
Oh, and I don't do a lot of nonfiction.
I know, so it's going to be interesting for you. We're going to talk about memoirs and autobiographies.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, did you notice I didn't say biography?
I did actually notice that.
Okay. Do you know what the difference between a biography and a memoir or autobiography is?
I'm having a 4th grade flashback right now, and I don't remember it.
The struggle.
Yeah.
Well, so a biography is an account of someone's life that's usually written by someone else.
Oh, that's right.
Yes. So, and a lot of times a biography you're going to find might be like their whole life from, birth to death. So like a couple examples that I've read probably within the last couple years would be Diana, Her True Story by Andrew Morton. I think you may have seen me reading that one.
I sure did.
Was watching The Crown, and I just went into this whole royal family thing, and I went deep. And this one, it was really good, but some people did consider it a little like salacious, tabloid, but if you're interested in the royal family at all, it was pretty eye-opening, and it was very interesting. And another one that I read several years ago that it took me a while to get through because, it's just a teeny tiny 808-page paperback. I know.
It's so big.
I read Alexander Hamilton.
Oh.
I did. I think it was before I worked for the library. I think it might have been one of my last summers before I worked with you guys.
Gotcha.
And, obviously, like, the musical had, like, blown up and all that stuff. But this was one of the ones that it was said that Lin-Manuel Miranda had read prior to creating Hamilton. So it's the one by Ron Chernow. And it was super interesting.
Yeah?
I learned so much. I am not a history buff. I had to set it down several times to just kind of digest and let my brain decompress and, but it was very, very interesting. So, but the difference is you've got biographies, which would be written by someone else and maybe be a majority of your life, but then memoirs and autobiographies tend to be written by the person that they're about. And that's one of the reasons why I love this little piece of nonfiction so much. So a person writing a little bit of a story about themselves. So now an autobiography is also like a biography going to span their whole life.
Okay.
Okay. So like a couple examples of that. I remember in college I read The Color of Water. It's a black man's tribute to his white mother. It's by James McBride. This story was so fascinating. His mother, she was actually the daughter of like a minister. His father was a black minister. His mother was actually white, but she claimed to be light-skinned. Oh. So she was actually born in Poland, and her family had fled here to Virginia. But she fled her abusive home at the age of 17 and went to New York City and like ended up marrying his father. They had like 12 children together, and it was just really interesting, like the values that she taught her children when it came to race and stuff like that. Like it was just one of the reoccurring themes of the book was God is the color of water. And it was fascinating the way that he shared his mother with us. It was beautiful. And the other one, just kind of on the flip side a little bit, Betty White. She wrote one that I adored, and it was called If You Ask Me, and Of Course You Won't. And it's stories from her like 70-year career. And if I recall, I can't remember if I actually read it in this book or if I read it somewhere else after the fact, but she actually wrote it like on yellow legal note paper.
Whoa.
Because she did not use electronics and stuff. So she was not a computer or typewriter person. It was all handwritten on legal pads. But it was really sweet. And so again, those would both kind of be autobiographies. So they wrote like their own story, but it spanned their life. Now a memoir, still writing it about yourself, but it's usually more focused on a thing, right? So a part of your life.
Okay, I've read those.
Okay, so two of my favorite examples of a memoir would be Tara Westover wrote Educated. Do you remember Educated?
I'm still checked out a lot.
Yes, and she grew up in a very strict survivalist family, so like not allowed to go to school, not even allowed to go to the hospital if you get hurt. Like your family would do like herbal remedies and stuff. And she managed at the age of 17 to get into college. Like she managed to educate herself enough to go to school. And it wasn't until she got into college that she started hearing things like the Civil War. Like she didn't know any of this stuff.
I didn't know that's what that book was about.
Yeah.
I want to read it.
Yeah, it's really interesting. So it does cover a lot of her life, but the focus of the memoir is it's all centered around education and the importance of education and stuff. And the other one is The Glass Castle. That's by Jeanette Walls, and this is one of my all-time favorite memoirs. In her memoir, it focuses more on like the chaotic childhood. Right. And so her family was very nomadic and dysfunctional. So like her father was really smart. Her mom was incredibly talented. If I remember correctly, I think she was like a painter and stuff like that too. But they were not always sober. and they didn't properly care for their children. But it's also a story about unconditional love, because like her and her siblings, like how they would band together to protect each other, and how they still, deep down, they knew how much their parents loved them, and they were still this really tight family unit despite all the chaos that was constantly surrounding them. But that one was really interesting, and I actually met her. I loved her. She's
Wow.
awesome person.
Oh my gosh,
So-
that's amazing.
Yeah, so does that make a little sense? Like biography versus autobiography versus memoir?
Yes.
Okay.
You explained it way better than my 4th grade teacher.
Oh, yay, go me. So the other thing too that I want to say about these is, if you are an audiobook fan, or if maybe you're trying to get into the audio medium a little more, memoirs are awesome
Yes.
when they are read by the author who wrote it.
Yes, absolutely.
So what I find with these is they add this extra air of like sincerity to what the person is telling you about themselves, right? So for example, when you take like a famous person, if you're just reading it on your own in your voice a little bit, maybe some of the things they're telling you might sound like they're just name dropping, and they're
Right.
just like trying to sound cool and make themselves more like bigger than they are. But when you are listening to them tell the story, so for instance, like illegal substances, right? Instead of it being like, look how cool I am that I did all this stuff when you're reading it, if you're listening to them tell it, sometimes in their voice, what you might end up hearing is more of a, I did this really dumb thing, but here's what I learned.
Yeah.
And I love that. Like,
Yeah.
I love the growth,
Yes.
right? Because we're all going to make mistakes in our lives, but you have to learn from them.
Yeah.
You have to grow from them.
Yeah. And own them. You know, it happened.
Exactly. So I really recommend, if you're interested in audiobooks, this is an amazing place to start. So a couple, like when I say famous people that I wanted to point out, was Jennifer Grey from Dirty Dancing. Okay, you know who I'm talking about?
Yes.
So she has a new one called Out of the Corner, and I did do this one on audiobook. So much that I did not know about her.
Yeah.
I did not realize who her father was. He was like the original dude from Cabaret. If you guys are into musicals, you know who I'm talking about. She jumps right in from the beginning talking about the nose job and the plastic surgery and how unhappy she was with, like, she threw it right out there.
Yeah.
Right? Like this one question that the whole world has always had, was it on purpose? Did she she just goes right for it.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yes. And there is name dropping. She dates a lot of famous people, but like I didn't know she was engaged to Matthew Broderick. Like I had no idea. Her back was like broken when she was on Dancing with the Stars.
Oh,
like,
gosh.
Yeah, it was really interesting. And this memoir, for me personally, it felt very much like a coming of age story. And even though because of her life and the world in which she was raised and lived, maybe it took her a little longer to get from A to Z, she still got there. And so even though things weren't always perfect, it's like, it was kind of a reminder that it's okay to forgive ourselves and to continue forward.
Yeah.
And I really appreciated that. I loved it.
See, look, another one I want to read.
See? And another one that was a little name droppy that I adored was Rob Lowe. It's called Rob Lowe, Stories I Only Tell My Friends, an Autobiography. And this was such a page turner for me.
Yeah.
Like, he talks about, this hilarious story with Michael J. Fox. Little spoiler, they had a very fun night once with a bunch of friends, and they woke up in the same bed together, and he was like, why is Michael J. Fox in my bed? Like, it was, just funny stuff. But again, we learn from our mistakes and we grow. He is sober. He is a doting husband and father. Like, he has turned his life around and become this incredible person. And, and his story is about like Patrick Swayze, it's Rob Lowe's autobiography, but the way he talks about Patrick Swayze, another person who I adore, and to see him through Rob Lowe's eyes, it's very interesting sometimes when you see like the friendships and the growth and the people that they've become. But another one that really surprised me that would fall into the autobiography character is Neil Patrick Harris. You know who he is, right?
Of course.
Okay. I have loved him from way back when. But obviously, like, nowadays people might know him more from A Series of Unfortunate Events or from How I Met Your Mother.
That's where I know him from.
Yeah. So he wrote one that just surprised me. And it's a choose your own autobiography. And it's set up like a choose your own adventure book.
Interesting.
So as a book lover, I really appreciated how unique this book was. And it had everything in it. It had stuff in there from like his Doogie Howser days. It had Broadway. It had Elton John. It had how he met his husband, his, having his children, like just everything. And you could literally go through it and be like, if you want to do this, turn to page 99. If you want to do this, turn to page 104. And you could literally do it that way, or you could cheat and just read page, and just go all the way through. It was so much fun, and I give him so much credit for this, like, creative setup.
How did you read it?
I started by doing the flipping stuff, but then I got scared that I was missing something, and so I went back to where I had first flipped, and then I started just reading the whole thing.
Okay.
So, because I got scared that I was like, what if I miss like a fun page? And there were even some fake stories in there, so like some of the ones where you're turning to a certain page and you start reading it and you're like, this is obviously not true. Like, so obvious. But it was so creative. But it's fun to learn about famous people, right? Like, I also loved Jessica Simpson wrote one called Open Book, and I thought I knew things that she had gone through, but I did not realize the extent of which she had gone through. And I really give her credit where credit is due, because I think she has come a long, long way. And to spend your whole life in the shadow of like these other pop stars and, the things with her parents and all that, like, I give her a lot of credit. And then even like Alex Trebek, the Jeopardy host, his book was really interesting too. And it was set up where it had almost like a Jeopardy question, like, what is, and then this whole chapter would be around like that question a little bit.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it was a very sweet and sentimental setup. So that was really fun too, to see like where he came from and his rise to like game show fame, but also to see how important to him being a family man and a father and all that stuff was. But I also read these things not just for like famous people, because like obviously those are fun and easy to find, but also to like learn something, right? So I sometimes enjoy learning about maybe like a job that I was not familiar with, right? Like I had just read one that was actually about a guy who became a paramedic. But one of my favorites, there's this girl named Caitlin, I think it's Doughty, and it's called Smoke Gets in Your Eyes and Other Lessons from the Crematory.
Ooh.
Yes. So I'll put this right out there. I grew up in a very large Italian family, so funerals were super normal for me. And I actually find comfort in them. But her book was really interesting because you also have like, you're dealing with grief and it's helping people understand life. And, she's looking at all of these different aspects of dying. And it was told with such like honesty and humor that it was really interesting to see this like other side, because we all have to have a job, right? And just because it might not be interesting to you, someone else is going to have to do it. And so memoirs are a really cool way to maybe get a glimpse into a job that you didn't quite understand. So that one was really fun. Is there like a job that you would ever be curious to maybe? Can you think of anything?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I'm when we talked about it last month with people we meet on vacation.
Oh yeah.
100% would love to like travel and get to be.
Yeah.
Although I'm not great with words, to be honest. It's fine.
That's why there's editors.
Right. So, but that's like, get to travel and tell people like, oh, this was a great spot to go to.
Yeah.
And I think that'd be, I don't know if that's not a travel agent.
No, it's a travel writer.
Travel writer. There we go. That.
Yeah.
I would love to do that.
Okay, so fun fact, Sarah wants to be a travel writer.
Yeah, guys. Make it happen. I'm kidding.
I love it. The other one, too, that I learned a lot from, do you know who Trevor Noah is? I guess he falls into the category of famous people and learning, but...
Isn't he on a show, The Daily something?
Yeah.
I don't know.
So he wrote the book, do you recognize Born a Crime? Have you ever seen that one checked out? It was really popular for a long time. Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it's super interesting, but so he was actually born in South Africa, and his birth was a crime. Hence where the title comes from.
What?
Yes. So because of like apartheid and all that stuff, and in South Africa at the time, his father was white and his mother was black. And so his birth was actually illegal. But it was filled with like so many like crazy stories and moments that like there were times where I just laughed out loud because I was like, this can't possibly be true. But then at the same time, I was learning so much from him about South Africa at that time, because I remember learning a little bit about apartheid in school, but like I don't remember them going like super deep into it. So to hear it from somebody who had actually like lived there at the time, I really appreciated that. And this book was really readable. You know, and that's hard to find sometimes. So I learned more than I anticipated with that one.
Yeah.
And then, okay, so here's one that I wrote down for you.
Okay.
Because you know how you and I both like World War II fiction and stuff like that?
Yeah.
Okay. There's this guy. His name is Eddie Jaku. It's J-A-K-U. And the book is called The Happiest Man on Earth.
Okay.
It was published when he was 100 years old.
Oh.
It's barely 200 pages. It might have been less. I can't remember. I think it's just just under. But life can be beautiful if you make it beautiful. It is up to you. He spent 7 years detained by the Nazis. He went to a couple different camps. He had to do the death march.
Oh, wow.
And he survived.
Wow.
And he married, and he had this whole life, and nothing got Eddie down. And this book was so incredible. And my review on Goodreads. Ready? This was my review. Remember to take the time to appreciate every moment of your life. Thank you, Eddie. That's all you need.
Yeah.
I loved this book.
That sounds amazing.
It really was. So this was his memoir. Obviously, it's built around, you know, what he went through. But it was just such a reminder to really... It's okay to have a bad moment. It's okay. We all go through stuff, some worse than others, obviously. But for him to still be able to say, and if you see his picture on the cover, like he is just, I would love to meet this man.
Yeah.
Yes. It was so good. But then, so here's the other weird one for me. I've been trying to read graphic novels. I don't know if you guys know this, but graphic novels almost have their own little genre within now, because memoirs are becoming a popular graphic novel.
Yeah.
Yeah. So our director ordered Relish for me.
Okay.
Do you remember seeing me read that one? The girl, she's like eating an olive or something on the cover.
Yes.
Okay. So there was that one, and it's My Life in the Kitchen. Her parents were... they were really into food. They were chefs and stuff like that. And so she grew up completely surrounded by food. And that's how she tells the story of her memoir, of her life. And the other one, this one, it made me cry. I already talked a minute about my Bigotillion family. I actually find books about grief to be very comforting. And this one is called Dancing at the Pity Party. And it's about a girl, well, she's a woman, but dealing with the death of her mother. And it is so beautifully told, beautifully put together. And by the time it was over, like, it was one of those moments where I did I hugged the book. Aww. And, you know, I had tears in my eyes. She did a phenomenal job telling this story, this little snippet of her life, and just sharing it with the world. And just almost like this moment of, you're not alone. You're not alone. And it's okay to dance at the pity party. So are any of these like jumping out at you yet? What are you thinking about some of them?
So I know I've been really quiet, and I don't mean to be. It's just like I'm listening.
You're
and
taking
I'm like,
it all in.
I am, because I've only read a few memoirs, I guess they would be considered memoirs. And so, and I'll talk about them in a little bit, but just hearing, I didn't realize that you've read so many.
Yeah.
And then, like, when you say the titles, I'm like, oh, no, I remember you reading them. That Eddie one, I want to read that one so bad.
Yeah. And
especially when you told me it's less than 200 pages, to be honest.
Yes.
Because sometimes with nonfiction, I'm still in the process of, like, it takes me forever to read nonfiction. And so a lot of these just sound so good. And I just... Yeah. I'm just soaking it all in. I promise. Okay. I'm here.
That's okay. That's okay. Well, next I'm just going to lay a couple of my all-time favorites on you.
Okay.
And just see where they land. And I don't know. I tried really hard, guys, not to mention ones that we have already talked about. So I think there might be a repeat or two in this small list. So I do apologize. But the first one was Dave Grohl, the Storyteller, Tales of Life and Music.
I wondered if you were going to talk about that one.
Okay, best concert ever, Foo Fighters. It was so good. I love Dave Grohl. I'm not going to apologize for that. He's one of my guys. But this memoir, he wrote it like, during the COVID lockdown and stuff. But obviously he's a rock star. I went into it a little nervous that it was going to be all sex, drugs, and rock and roll, Mm-hmm. It was not. He is such a advocate for teachers. He is first and foremost like a husband and a father. And I don't want to do any spoilers, but if you do read it and you see the extent to which he went to keep a promise to his daughter, like just a stand-up guy, just such a stand-up guy, but also somebody who's capable of laughing at himself and of being incredibly honest, like the way he spoke about Nirvana and Kurt Cobain, because, that has always been this huge shadow over his life, I think, with a lot of people when they see him. And he was very honest about it from what I took away from the book. And I just appreciated it so much. So yes, Dave Grohl. But the other one that I really want to mention, it's actually 2 books. They are both by Billy Crystal. And he is probably the memoir that I read that I thought to myself, I could sit down and hang out with this guy. Like I could be his neighbor. I love him. So he did a book called 700 Sundays, which was turned into a play. And it's about all the Sundays he got to spend with his father. Because his father passed away when he was still fairly young. And so they only actually had 700 Sundays together. And so that is just this beautiful snippet of his life and seeing a glimpse into his family. But then as an adult, he wrote Still Foolin' 'Em, Where I've Been, Where I'm Going, and Where the Hell Are My Keys? And this one gives you all these perspectives of like life, love, marriage, fatherhood, like all of those things. And he gets it. Like he really gets it. And I listened to this one on audio, and it was one of the ones where like he was telling this story, like him and his wife, and the way he talks about how they were when they first got married versus now as they're older, like the whole where are my keys bit. Mm-hmm. It made me laugh. Like anyone who's lucky enough to go through that much of life with like another person and to be able to still laugh at like where we were and where we are. I mean, he really, really gets it. I can't recommend those enough. He's actually a really good writer.
Yeah?
Yeah, I think he's kind of underappreciated in that respect. And then the other one, do you remember me reading the one called The Honey Bus? Does that sound familiar? It had a yellow cover.
Maybe.
Okay.
I think so.
Because remember you showed me that Instagram with the Texas Bee Works girl?
Yes.
Okay, we were like obsessed with bees for a little while?
Yes.
Okay. Now you know more about Sarah and I. Okay, it's called The Honey Bus. It's a memoir of loss, courage, and a girl who was saved by bees. So the author's name is Meredith May. And this one was such a surprise to me. I do not recall where it was put onto my radar. I don't remember where I heard about it from. But her parents end up splitting up. And so she relocates with her mom to her grandparents. And if I remember correctly, they went from one coast to the other. And so the grandparents they end up living with, Grandpa has a honey bus, and it literally is like this school bus in the yard, and it's got like the thing on it that spins the honey and all this other stuff, and he teaches her how to care for the bees. He teaches her about the importance of every bee's job and all of that kind of stuff. And the relationship between her and her grandpa that really helps her get through this like hard moment in her life was just so beautiful. And I think this is a incredibly underrated memoir because I don't know if it got as much, I don't want to do a pun here, but I don't know if it got as much buzz as some of these other ones do. Mm-hmm. And I really think it's worth picking up if anyone's curious about that one. So it was a very pleasant surprise. So yeah, I don't know. I find it a little interesting how much I enjoy memoirs when I can't stand reality television.
But it's because it's coming from that person's perspective and not the perspective of producers and what will sell.
True. That's true.
Yeah.
That makes me feel better.
Yeah.
Because I was kind of thinking about it, and I'm like, what is my obsession with, like, nonfiction when I can barely stand... I mean, Great British Baking Show, absolutely. Sign me up for all of them.
I feel like it's a little different, yeah.
But, you know, like
the
a
Kardashians.
Lot of I can't do any of that.
No.
You know?
I get it.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's their words. It's the words they choose.
Yeah.
They want.
It makes me feel better.
Yeah.
So if you were going to write a memoir, enough about my list, but now what would you focus on? Like, what part of your life?
I would focus on my childhood and teenage years because people don't realize like how much I went through and my mom, she did the absolute best that she could. She was a single mom for a long time. But when people start hearing my story, they're like, what? Like, they're like, I didn't realize I was as private as I am until like the past like year and a half when people are like, wow, you are really private. And I'm like, it's not really on purpose. It's just like it happened. I went through it. I overcame it. And I just moved on with my life.
Yeah.
And so I think that because I think maybe it could help some people.
There you go.
That either they have hard times letting go or anything like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good. I have to apologize real quick. My dog keeps barking, guys. I'm so sorry. My husband had to go into the office, so he's not here to like distract the dog while we're recording. So
he wanted to be a part of the podcast too.
He really did, but they don't know how to be quiet. Okay. I like that answer, and I don't think there's anything wrong with being private.
Yeah. It really isn't on purpose.
Yeah. Also, your mom is awesome.
Yeah.
I know her now.
Yeah. She works in the city, guys.
Yeah. I was thinking about this too, and I'm like, I feel like the easy answer might be like marriage or like mom life or whatever, but I feel like maybe I would do something more about like lessons that I've learned in my life, but like relating it to something else that I've learned. So like I learned how to run. Like how could I relate that to something else? Or learning how to cook. Because I know you guys tease me sometimes about like all the different foods that we make, but when Matt and I first started dating, I was afraid to cook chicken.
Oh.
Like I was terrified. I really couldn't cook more than like boxed mac and cheese or maybe an egg or something or some pasta. And I lived in fear of serving like raw meat. And so I
constantly live in that fear.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Yeah. And of course now I like won't touch it. So Matt's back to having to cook it all, but it's fine. But it's, something like that. I feel like maybe I would try and tie it together in that way.
I like that.
Yeah. But I don't know. I feel like I've learned a lot in my life. But I also think that I would be too afraid to write a memoir because a 2-sentence text message can be like so misinterpreted.
Yes.
That how would somebody feel if I wrote a chapter of a book and they were like a character in that chapter?
Right.
Like I would be terrified.
Yeah.
So
agreed. I get it.
Yeah.
I get it.
So you probably won't be expecting a memoir from me anytime soon. So who would be your dream person to read a memoir or an autobiography from? And they can be like famous or not famous. They can be alive. They may have passed.
Okay. I have a famous and a non-famous person.
Okay.
Okay. So the famous person would be Lizzo. So fun fact, guys, I love Lizzo, and I'm not going to call myself like a huge fan because like I don't know much about her at all. But that's the point, is I don't know much about her, and all of a sudden in the past like I don't know, a couple years, like she really has blown up, and it's one of those like, well, everybody starts from somewhere,
right?
Where did you start from? And I know that you like kind of Googled her in the car because, fun fact, she is, listen, if I need to get hype, that's who I listen to. Because we're going to jam in the car. Absolutely. When Bethany's in my car and we're riding together, I'm like, all right, let's turn it up.
Sarah's rapping and I'm Googling and I'm like, oh, she played the flute? Like, I didn't know.
So, I love her. And like I follow her on TikTok, and she's, fun fact, if you didn't know, she's vegan.
Oh.
I believe she's fully vegan.
She's my new best friend.
She is. Like she's fun, and she enjoys cooking, and she's one of those people that like she can have fun at herself. She can laugh at herself. And she has an obsession with Chris Evans, as we all do, because
rightfully so.
Captain America, I guess. So Lizzo. And then for my non-famous person, his name is Harvey, and he passed away, I think, in 2018.
Okay.
I believe 2018. I used to go to church with him and his wife, who his wife also passed away in 2020. And they were just incredible. I used to clean their house when I was like 18, 19, and half the time I was cleaning their house, and the other half I was sitting on their couch, and he would pull out pictures and just tell me these incredible stories. Because I mean, if I'm correct, I think him and his wife met when they were 16, 17, and she was a little pistol. She was a little firecracker. She knew what she wanted, and it was him.
I love it.
And I want to say they met like in a cornfield at a party or something, and he collected tractors and just listening and hearing his stories and just seeing the way that he treated his wife. It was beautiful. And so I would love to know more.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh,
so,
that's great.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. What about you?
Well, I also went with 2. So I went with famous, which would be Bill Murray.
What a good time.
I know. So we watched a documentary on him with our kids, and it was really fascinating. Like, he's a super private guy. I don't think he even has like a cell phone. Like, if you want to call him, you have to call like this land, it's a whole thing. And he's, that guy that'll show up just random places. Like, did you ever see the thing, it went famous, where he was in somebody's, it was their like engagement photos in like North Carolina. Yes. And then he showed up in New York City playing soccer with a bunch of teenager, or college students. He's such an interesting guy who just really appreciates life and being in the moment. And it's so easy to forget to be in the moment that I think there's a lot to learn from him. And there are books out there about him, but I don't believe there's any that he wrote about himself.
Oh.
So I would be curious about himself. Yeah. So, and then the other one, my great grandma. I feel like my mom's side of the family is smaller than my dad's side, and so it's a little harder sometimes to find out like the family stories and things like that. And on my mom's side, she was one of the ones that I was really close to, but I also lost her when I was young. And I miss her, and it's like I still remember exactly what her apartment looked like when we used to go visit her, and it's one of those I can't explain it. Like, I can still smell like her apartment and her her when she would hug me, but I can't explain what the smell is. It's not like she didn't smell like vanilla, you know what I mean? Like but I can still smell it. Like, and I feel like there's a lot of lost stories there, and I really wish that I had a chance to maybe get more stories from her. Yeah. So those would be mine. But I don't know. I guess that's all, unless you had anything else. Do you have a couple that you want to mention? Because I talked a lot.
Yeah, I have a couple I want to mention.
Okay.
And I was like, the entire time I was like, are these considered memoirs? Which I'm pretty sure they are. So the first one that I'll start with, and I don't know if you read it, but A Stolen Life by J.C. Dugard.
I did.
So I read that, and I had no idea who she was. And we happened to have her book on the shelf. And if you don't know, on June 10th, 1991, 11-year-old J.C. Dugard was abducted from a school bus stop within sight of her home in California. And it was the last time that her friends and family saw her for over 18 years. And just her reliving just all those to put it into a book. Yeah. It's just one of those. I was just always, the way that I was raised was be very cautious of your surroundings. And I think it was because 1991, my mom was graduating from high school. So, like, she's seeing that, and now, my mom got married quickly out of high school, had kids quickly. So, her seeing that, like, that was instilled. And then, like, the whole, Amber Alert, where Amber Alert came from. So, it's just one of those.
That was a good one. I will just say trigger warning. So, very just be advised before you open it.
She goes in depth about those 18 years and what was going on. So that one, it's good, but it is very heavy. So, and then Elizabeth Hasselbeck, which I didn't know who she was, but our old director recommended it to me, and it's called Point of View, A Fresh Look at Work, Faith, and Freedom. And so she was on Survivor, The View, and Fox and Friends. I have not watched any of those. So I went in because I was like, oh, she's not really famous. Apparently she is. I'm so sorry. I just personally didn't know who she was. But it's a deep, intimate journey of like her faith and just her jobs. And she spent 2 decades broadcasting. I had no idea. But it's super interesting. It's interesting to hear other people's point of views when you do see them in those different roles. And then you're like, oh, is that really how they are? Or
Right.
is that just who they're supposed to be when they're doing their job?
Sometimes it's nice to go in blind to some of this stuff too, though, so you don't have like a preconceived notion about,
Yeah.
you know.
And I listened to her book. She is the audio recorder.
The narrator.
Yeah. Ooh, thank you.
I got you.
That was a struggle. She was the narrator, and I remember the whole time going, she just has a great voice. And I was like, if she could narrate some more audiobooks, that'd be great. And then the last one I'll mention is The Rural Diaries, which is by Hilary Burton Morgan, who her husband is Jeffrey Dean Morgan, who absolutely love both of them. If you watched One Tree Hill, she played Peyton, which funny enough, because now looking back and rewatching the show, because I mentioned on our podcast episode about podcasts, I listen to Drama Queens. I actually don't like her character anymore, which is so funny how much it just shows growth.
I was going to say, you're a different person now.
Yes. Oh my gosh. No, her character is annoying, but I absolutely adore her. But they now have a farm in upstate New York, and so they talk about their farm. She talks a little about One Tree Hill. Her husband's on Walking Dead, so they talk about The Walking Dead, and then they live in a small town, and they're like BFFs with Paul Rudd, who, out of all the people, and they all bought a candy shop together.
Now that's a memoir we need. Paul Rudd, you need to write a book.
Yeah, and so they went in with Paul Rudd, bought a candy shop, and so just... they're super famous people, but do such normal things. And so I absolutely love that book. Highly recommend it to everybody.
Let's all remember, famous people are people too.
Yes. And it was one of my favorite books that I read that year.
Very cool.
Yeah. So those are the ones I wanted to share.
All right. Man, we've shared so many books with you guys. Okay.
Yeah.
So we're going to just close this out real quick with what are you reading now? And we're going to tell you guys a quick teaser for next month.
Yeah. I'm reading Beach Reads by Emily Henry.
I'm reading Beach Reads by Emily Henry.
Crazy!
So next month, Sarah and I are going to try and host our own little book club.
Yeah.
So if anybody would like to get their hands on Beach Reads by Emily Henry, and then you can kind of listen in to our little back and forth about the book, we're gonna talk about it and see what happens. We've never done this before.
Woohoo! It'll be new for all of us.
And if it goes well, maybe we'll try it again later with another book. But yeah, we decided after last month's episode that it would be really fun to read one of her books together and actually talk about it a little more.
Yeah, for sure.
So, Norbert wants to apologize for all of his barking. I'm so sorry. This is terrible.
It's good. It's okay.
We'll see how loud it is when I listen back to it. All right. Thank you guys so much for tuning in today. Don't forget you can reach out to us on all our library social medias or the mulberrylibrary@gmail.com. Feel free to put in your comments, suggestions, all of that good stuff. And I think that's it.
Yeah.
Happy reading.